Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Will Reynolds, and I am current VP of the board with now Move United. And we are coming to you today to tell you about an exciting merger that we just underwent with Adaptive Sports USA, Disabled Sports USA combined with them. And my background is I am a Disabled Sports USA beneficiary as a warfighter. I've been involved with the organization at many different levels for the better part of the last decade. And I'm coming to you from my basement in Bethesda, Maryland. I'm best known for having a lot of kids, and they are running around the house now in this homeschool environment that we're in. So I've taken up office in my basement, but I've been fortunate enough to put up our lovely new logo for Move United. I want to tell you a little bit about one of the initiatives that Move United has, which is our Adapt at Home initiative. We all are, of course, stuck in our homes to stay safe in our current isolated status, but we want to make sure that we're not too isolated and that we can still connect with each other in the social media realm. And we are doing so through our Adapt at Home initiative. So we all know that physical activity makes you feel better. So we're trying to push that movement all across our networks. And currently we have over 330 live and on-demand adaptive classes that we're using to make available for everyone to continue to adapt at home. Move United website, you can go to that by clicking Adapt at Home link, which is at the top of the page. And so I want to introduce to you Glenn Mary, who was the CEO of US Rowing and Olympic and Paralympic national governing body for 12 years. He has expanded the membership by 50%, reaching 100,000 individuals, and doubled the number of U.S. rowing member organizations while he served in that capacity. He nearly tripled that organization's revenue and led to the launch of U.S. rowing member organizations. He also created Freedom to Rows, which is a national program serving military veterans, and we all know Move United is going to continue to serve military veterans. He was the U.S. Rowing National Federation representative at the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games, and was a team leader at the 2004 Athens Olympic Games. He also served as vice chair of the USOPC National Governing Body Council, and he is now executive director of our new organization, Move United. And for the last 18 months, he has re-envisioned the direction of the organization through our Vision 2028 initiative, which he'll talk to you about later today. I'd also like to introduce to you Susan Rossi. She is a sport and rehabilitation professional with 20 years in the Paralympic and adaptive sports industry. She was with the USOPC as the Paralympic Sport Outreach and Development Manager, and she also was with the City of Mesa Parks and Recreation and Commercial Facilities in collaboration with Arizona Disabled Sports. She's with Breckenridge Outdoor Education Center, which Disabled Sports USA was a huge benefactor of, and Move United will still be a benefactor at our Ski Spectacular, and with the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago. She also has various other well-rooted adaptive sports program affiliations. Susan is certified in therapeutic recreation, and she also was the executive director of Adaptive Sports USA since 2015. So she is the second arm of this great merger that we are bringing. And last, I'd like to introduce to you Daniel Romanchuk. Daniel is a track and field phenom, was just training for a half marathon recently, which unfortunately was canceled, as many spring activities. He was a 2016 member of the U.S. Paralympic team and also 2019 world champion in the 800 and the marathon. Daniel's the world record holder in both the 800 and the 5,000, and he won the Boston, New York, Chicago, and London marathons all in 2019. Those were slams that not even Serena could achieve on the grand scale. And so in 2019, Daniel was also a nominee for the ESPY Award, and he's already secured a slot for the Tokyo Paralympics, which will occur in 2021, as we all know. He lives in Illinois, actually is up in Mount Airy, Maryland right now, and he grew up participating in both disabled sports and Adaptive Sports USA events. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Glenn, who is going to tell us a little bit about why we embarked in this merger.
Yeah, this merger is actually kind of a manifestation of a larger vision that we have for adaptive sport in the United States. And when I came on board about 18 months ago, I had the luxury of taking a few months to get to know the organization and our stakeholders and the chapters and the work that's being done at the community level. And from that, about this time last year, we were kind of wrapping up our introduction to where we wanted to take the organization and in elevating to the American people what it is to be a person with a disability engaged in sport and really using sport to transform lives. And as we thought about that and our goals around this date of 2028 with the return of the Paralympics to American soil and this opportunity that will exist as it did in London in 2012 when I was there for those games, the interest of the American people is going to be focused on what you can do, this ability that you bring to the field of play, and using that to really change their perceptions. So we've been thinking strategically over the last year about how to grow in a more robust and a farther extension of the chapter network that we have. And this merger has really allowed us to reach out to new areas, engage in competition, where we've been very focused on recreation and especially outdoor and indoor sports space, to be able to kind of think beyond that and what sport, recreation, and competition can bring to transform people's ability to engage in these activities.
Excellent. And Susan, you obviously come from this from a shared vision, but also a different side of the house. You've been involved in adaptive sports your whole career, and have impacted many lives, not only personally, but through your former organization. Can you tell us a little bit about why you wanted to embark in this merger?
Absolutely. And first off, hello, everyone. We hope you're staying healthy and active, and we hope you're as excited about this as we are. This is truly historic. It's a historic time to bring these two organizations together. Collectively, these two organizations have been serving athletes with physical disabilities for 110 years. And both were formed literally before the ADA, before Paralympics, before so much of the things that are happening and progressing in our society now. We were at the forefront. And so bringing that energy and that expertise together is just going to be monumental. No doubt, especially the time we're in right now, that we need to pool our resources. And by resources, I mean that history, our expertise, our combined chapter network, our sponsors and partners, and our energy, and really move forward in this space collectively. So we are really excited. There's no doubt this is a good thing. And for me personally, as Will said, I've been in the movement for 20 years now, over 20 years. And even though there's so much momentum, I still see locally and nationally a little bit of confusion in this space of how to start out, how to get engaged, who to engage with, who does what, and who should we be affiliated with. And so I think coming together as a collective organization, we could alleviate some of that confusion and really have united goals and a united vision moving forward in this space. So I know I personally am excited, our board and our staff is excited, and we hope you are as well.
And Will, to hook into what Susan was just talking about, I think what's been unique over the last 6 to 9 months is that as we began to set out a vision for where we can take the community and engage people on the field of play and recreation, is that what we've seen is bringing people under one umbrella, whether it's recreation and youth, whether it's warfighter, adult, competition. And as the Paralympic Sport Club program came to an end at the end of 2019, bringing that group and beginning to recruit them into it. So there's a full spectrum of opportunity with an aspirational goal that 1% may move on to become a Paralympian. but to really have a framework for an athlete development pipeline and kind of a one-stop shop where people know if they come to Move United, they can enter and take part and go anywhere along the spectrum that they desire, and that they can achieve things beyond any one of those individual markets by itself.
Excellent. And Daniel, of course, we want to hear your perspective. You've participated in sport at all different levels, up to the highest and most elite levels. What do you think about this merger, and how does it affect you from the athlete realm?
I'm very excited about this combination. I think it will increase the amount of programs that are available, as well as make them very visible and easy to find for people. I grew up doing multiple different sports through both organizations, but I think that regardless, we will see an increase in people joining sports, and we may see people that want to take certain sports to the best of their abilities, and we may see them in LA 2028. Or there may be an increase in people that just want to do multiple sports and just enjoy staying fit and active. But regardless, I think we're going to really see an increase in the strength of the U.S., the movement of the Paralympics in the U.S.
Excellent. Yeah, I love what you have to say about access and just providing more opportunities for everyone. That's what this is all about. Glenn, back to you. Why rebrand? Of course, there's a cost that comes with rebranding. There could be potential name confusion. You've got these two great organizations with a lot of prominence in the space. Why rebrand and why Move United?
Yeah, and the two things are kind of, they move together. As we began to think about our vision for where we wanted to go, we recognized that what we were really defining beyond just a point of service and program grants and day-to-day was a vision for the opportunity that this could bring, that it's really creating a social movement, and that social movement can propel a change in attitude about what your own accomplishments could be and your own limitations, but also how the American society views people with disabilities and the stereotypes and challenging those stereotypes. So as we began through the process of reconsidering who we were, obviously the merger plays into it, and that two great organizations with a lot of history and depth and culture around their names are coming together under new entities. So we wanted to provide that energy. But I think there's also this dynamic of where do we want to take things? And using that moment around the LA 28 Paralympic Games, I think what it really came out to us was if we can unite the community behind us and create a social movement to drive forward around the ideas of sports and recreation and other fitness and health, that'll become apparent to the American community that there is no such thing as limitations in what your goals can be, that it's really about this ability that you bring to the table in changing the perception within and outside of what those capabilities were. So as we narrowed down the process, and it was a pretty lengthy branding exercise, we went through a lengthy process of researching who we were, how people saw us, and that kind of led to a new territory and a new messaging about who we are to really provoke and incite conversations about disability and where the limitations are in that. So Move United kind of brings together this sense of motion and movement, but also a social movement. And it unites the entire community together as we go through this in the coming 8 years.
Excellent. And Susan, same question. I would love to hear Adaptive Sports USA's perspective and what it is getting out of this merger and the rebranding.
Absolutely. I agree with Glenn and reiterate the things that he said as far as coming together with a new brand was important, gives new energy, and obviously points to the vision moving forward to 2028. As far as some of the nuts and bolts, I've been a acronym police for the last few years, where I really try to make sure people are not using an acronym, because it's hard for the general public to really understand who we are and what we do. So the Move United logo is strong and bold and will be used consistently without the need for such thing. Also, things I've heard in my career is a little debate about adaptive, adapted, use of disabled and disability. All those things are really important and who we are, and we want to make sure those words are used in our messaging to portray the community. But the Move United logo and brand is a little bit bigger than that. Like Glenn said, it's a movement. It's showing us united as two organizations with really rich history coming together. It's showing our collective and growing chapter network coming together united. And most importantly, I think it's showing us united as a country, making sure that we're getting people physically active, moving, physically fit, and moving in the same direction all together on the same page. We're not going to do it individually as local programs or nationally as Move United. We're going to do this together. So really important. And so Move United is a good thing, and I think it'll really grow on people and be something we could wear with pride.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
So Glenn, going back to your intro, we talked a little bit about Vision 2028, and hopefully that's not the year that we're all going to get out of our homes. But can you tell us what Vision 2028 is for the organization?
Yeah, I think we started by kind of asking ourselves, when I came on board, it was very clear that at that point in time, Disabled Sports USA was doing great work. But what would it take to become the recognized leader in this space? And what would it take to bring a community together in a very functional, goal-oriented and metric-driven way? And so as we began to unpack that, we started to look across multiple areas of development, whether it's some of the things you're seeing this coming week at the upcoming leadership conference in an online strategy for education and training. Other aspects of it were more day-to-day athlete protection and ensuring that our most vulnerable aren't being preyed on by outsiders. But the overwhelming goal was that the strength of our organization has always been our chapter network. And that quilt that comes together in various size patches and different patterned materials, some very volunteer oriented, some very professional, highly functioning organizations with large budgets, is that the strength of bringing everyone together is really about saturating across the American population those opportunities. And so driving the growth to meet the needs that we perceive will come in 8 years and between now and then, making sure that youth and adults and warfighters have a place in their own community within a short drive to engage. This is one of our overwhelming visions to where we're headed. And so that's driven the brand, it's driven our economics. You know, in the last year, we've doubled the program grants going out to our chapters to $2 million this year. We've continued to serve more veterans with more than 2,000 warfighters and families served last year. So all of this vision is taking steps along the way towards tripling the number of youth that we will be serving in the next 8 years, and really increasing to 90% of the population of the United States being within a short drive of a chapter, and continuing to ensure that the resources are there, whether it's education and training for chapters to develop that next generation of volunteers and leaders, or if it's actually the financial resources to engage in programs and recruit new athletes to come and participate in their local programming. Those are all areas that we're looking to grow as part of this vision, so that by 2028, when the attention of the country is on our community and that little boy or little girl who's sitting on their couch watching the games turns to their parent and says, "I'd like to do that," the parent can say, "Yeah, and I know where we can," and that it's accessible.
Excellent. And how will this merger affect current chapters and participants? Certainly, both organizations has its own base of volunteers, supporters, subordinate chapters. How are they going to be affected, and how is their identity going to be retained through all of this?
Yeah, I think that the answers are a little bit different between Susan and I, but for the former Disabled Sport USA network, I think you'll just see continued enrichment of the opportunities. The merger brings with it the opportunity for new venues and a competition series that's really fantastic in that summer space around track and field and archery and swimming. And so the opportunity to engage with that, especially for our youth community, which is such a large percentage of the 100,000 that we'll be serving, it also gives, it'll continue to drive the strength of the program funding that we support. The larger we are, the more that we can encompass each other's brand and chapter network. It allows our sponsors to engage in a much more, in a richer fashion. And I mean that from an engagement strategy where on the ground they can participate as volunteers. And of course, that also helps us in opening checkbooks and getting more corporate sponsors engaged because we're in more locations where they are.
Great.
Sorry.
And Susan, over to you as well. I'd love to hear your perspective.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have traditionally in the past had a lot of crossover in our chapter network, but there's also dozens that are unique to each of us individually. So combining that under one roof, one-stop shop, really will make things clearer and more efficient. You know, for instance, safe sports and athlete protection policies, looking to one national organization for some guidance there versus two different pockets of thought. Those kind of things, policies and procedures and best practices, we will continue to evolve and offer those and be a stronger voice collectively. You know, the whole athlete pipeline where our chapters are really focused on very grassroots entry-level athletics or recreation to get somebody physically fit or just out socializing, all the way up to the Paralympic podium along the pipeline. So we've got that whole spectrum amongst our chapters and our signature events that people can engage collectively through one organization versus going out and navigating a few different ones.
Yeah,
go ahead. Nope.
I was going to say, to hook into what you're saying, I mean, it really, when 18 months ago, we were about 126 chapters strong at Disabled Sports USA. We're approaching 150 right now. With the merger between our two groups, we'll meet almost 200. In addition, we've been actively recruiting from the Paralympic Sport Club program. By the end of the summer, we'll be well over 225. The power of that network and the voice that it provides, the ladder that you step on to speak to local politicians as far as engagement, lobbying at a national level for rights to be in parks and to be engaged in recreational activities like whitewater rafting, down public spaces. The opportunity to engage with national partners like the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee as a multi-sport organization that represents now more than 100,000 participants, it changes the scale and the value that we can bring in that national voice to our chapter network on both sides of the chapter network. Now that we're as one, everyone benefits from that type of megaphone that we now have.
Yep. And one other point there, I agree with Glenn, the combined efforts will hopefully have more visibility and more influence, which can then help tell the athlete story. All you athletes out there, really be a voice for you and a channel where we can share testimonies and successes. And the chapters obviously have more pass-through opportunities, training and education, all of that good stuff. So we see the benefits being endless.
Yeah.
Excellent. And getting that point of visibility that you mentioned, Susan, of course, all organizations, nonprofits particularly, really rely on involvement at all levels, from its donors, from its volunteers. How do individuals get more involved with Move United?
That's a good question. We put the call to action out there for you to jump on board and really be bold and moving forward with us on this. And like I said earlier, this is not a national thing or a local thing. This is an all of us thing. We all need to be on this to take the pendulum a little bit farther than it's gone in the past. So we invite you to volunteer at the local level or volunteer at events. support us through donations as a nonprofit. Look to what Glenn has talked about the Vision 2028, and read through it and think through really how that can affect you locally for athletes and chapters out there. And keep an open door with us. Let's have transparency and talk about what makes sense locally as far as what we're doing nationally, and vice versa, so that we're all in this together. And then let's share, let's spread the word. Social media is huge these days, so really just all pumping up our communication on social media and highlighting all the different things that are going on both nationally and locally, so that we can tap into that group in the public that still do not know. One person, one day at a time. That's kind of how I've done it as a professional. There's always somebody that doesn't know, that's just waiting for this information. So together through social media and all of our networks and channels, really spreading the word.
Excellent.
Yeah, and to kind of take the lead from Susan, I think the importance of this messaging is that this is not meant to be an inspiration. This is meant to be bringing our community together and to challenge the outside world to understand who we are. And the power of sport to do that, the power of sport to change a person's life, has always been intrinsic in every civil rights movement in the United States. And this civil rights movement around access and ability to engage and to be seen as an equal is really important. And the sport is an even playing field, cross-generational. When you're a kid, you did sport playing with your friends around the playground. Maybe you picked up competitive sport in college or high school, and that was your teammate, and that's how you learned to socialize and be a good team member. And maybe you're just, not just, but maybe you're a passionate fan for your local league, and that provides a social network for you. Think of the power of that, and then think about a community that has been on the outside of that. And that's what we're challenging. So what can you bring? How can you engage? Encourage those discussions. If you're part of our community, engage those outsiders into the discussion about, here's what it's like to be an athlete. Here's what it's like to be an amputee or a blind athlete. Here's what it's like to engage in sport. Here are the obstacles that I overcome on a daily basis. And invite them into it. Invite them to become a volunteer, to become an instructor or a trainer. Invite them to the leadership conference so they can get a sense of who we are as a community. Invite your sponsors and friends to help donate and make your chapter community bigger. And if it's a larger group that wants to go higher into a national level, we're happy to work with them as well. But it's this engagement across all segments of this social justice movement that is focused on sport as that lever point to change the way people perceive people with disabilities. And that's how you get engaged. You step up, you sign up, you talk to people, you spend time with us day to day and volunteer and engage.
Those are great points, both of you. And a lot of people don't know some of the signature things that both these organizations have done individually, and now Move United are, provide that platform for advocacy to really level the playing field for access. And of course, each organization has its own signature programs and marquee programs, like the Warfighter Sports Program or Junior Nationals and Adapt to Achieve. What is the future for those signature programs of each organization, and how will they live on, if they'll live on, within Move United?
Well, that's the great opportunity here is there's opportunities to tweak and tune them up, but they're not going away. The names may change as we really focus on Move United as the parent brand. What I think you'll see is more of our programs roll up under Move United. So you may see Move United Elite as part of our E-team. Instead of having a separate E-team program, it may have a different name, but those programs are commitments that we've made to the community and something that we continue to invest in. Susan can definitely speak to the competition aspect, but there's a huge appetite to do more with the programs that we have and encourage them to come under one basic viewpoint so that people can identify them as part of the Move United movement.
Excellent. Susan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. And I just want to reiterate that, things may look a little different or feel a little different with the new brand, but all the programs will move forward. And we would like to see any change or anything that does look and feel a little bit different to be for the best. And ultimately have increased awareness for these programs because of this merge and increased participation. So everything will move forward, and you'll see an evolution over the next few months as the brand moves forward. But we're pretty excited that it's going to increase participation across the board.
Yeah, and
Thank
that's
you.
really an interesting part of it. I guess one of the changes you'll see is, we've made the public announcement and we've committed to the merger and moving forward, but there's legalities and forms and that have to be filed in our home states. And so you'll see some of the programs continue to roll out under their current name and status, and that kind of evolving through the summer as Susan comes over as the director of competition at Move United. And those events for 2021 become part of this family and part of this brand. And the chapter network shifting so that we're all part of one network under Move United, and staff has already begun putting together messaging to those groups. So if you are part of one or the other organization, I think what you'll begin to see as part of this merger is during the next 3 months, a lot of activity and a lot of messaging. And then the organizations kind of finish out their fiscal years and come together under 2021 fully under this new banner as a complete business entity.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We certainly can't cover all the points of a merger in one Facebook Live session, but a large part of both these organizations is leadership. They're organizations that house coaches, instructors, volunteers that are, certified instructors. So leadership is a huge part of both these organizations. So Glenn, can you tell us a little bit about the upcoming leadership conference?
It's going to be fantastic. I was really fortunate last year in person in Rochester, and I was fortunate enough in the fall to visit with the Adaptive Sport USA leadership conference that they had, and we're looking at what those look like. But when COVID hit on the 14th or 15th of March, and we had to shut down office operations, everyone went to work remotely. We weren't quite sure what was going to happen with this in-person session. We'd built up to 350 people. Well, as part of our vision, we talked about what we would be able to do if we could provide online learning. And we quickly shifted, and Adapt at Home is part of that with the live sessions. But the leadership conference, we're like, you know what, maybe we can take this 3-day in person and maybe we can cobble together a day's worth of material out of it. Well, that's not what happened at all. We have 5 days next week of programming from 11 until 5 at night, and a wide variety of topics and panels and discussions. Where we had 350 people in person, we have more than 1,000 registrants. In the first 6 hours, we doubled the number of registrants that we had last year. And what it indicates to me is that there's a thirst out there in the community for training and education and leadership, and that we've just begun to kind of tap what one potential solution can look like for this. We know we can't be in every location, and the power of being remote is that we also get to come together. It's a weird paradox, right? That by not being in person, we will have more than triple the number of participants and engagements in the new leadership conference next week, and it'll return when we're all able to get back together again, and we're able to shake hands and share a coffee or an adult beverage at the end of the day. We'll resume that in a year in Colorado Springs as part of our partnership with the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. But for this year, we're going to enjoy the success of being together remotely and having some great programming. And if you haven't already, I'd encourage you to go online, and there's still time to register and be part of this new endeavor. There's going to be some bumps and grinds. It's going to be a little bit like NASCAR. There's going to be some great crashes, I'm sure, with technology, and this being our first time doing it. But have a little bit of patience. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Susan and I get to spend some more time together on Monday in the kickoff plenary for the meeting. So we're really looking forward to it. We do think this is the wave of the future. We think it's how we provide access for so many that either can't travel or the expense is overcoming, is a lot to overcome to travel. And this is a great opportunity to test that theory.
Thank you, Glenn. Susan, last thoughts from Colorado, kind of the heart of our Olympic and Paralympic sport.
You know, on behalf of Adaptive Sports USA, we want to thank everyone that has been involved in the last 60 years, and we want to ask you for your trust in knowing that we are going to be as much of a heart and soul and positive energy and impactful force as we ever have been. This is a good change, and it's a wonderful thing. The work being done together is going to be pretty awesome. And again, not just us, the few of us talking, but together, all of us around the country. So again, we call you to action, to engage in all of this, even more than you have in the past, however long you've been doing this, just to go boldly forward. And we're excited, and we thank you for all the support you've given us thus far. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Susan. Daniel, anything for the athletes as you prep for 2021 next year?
Oh, I just can't wait to see what the future holds.
Many thanks. We thank everyone who is able to tune in and join us as these organizations go on this grand journey together. We're certainly experiencing a new normal, and this is going to be a new normal for a whole host of individuals across Move United. And we thank you for staying with us through this, and we're excited to share more as we join together.
Thank you, Will and Daniel and Susan. I'm really excited about the future for our organization, for our community, and the opportunity to really challenge the status quo as we move forward.